My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. Finally. Well, I had a major meltdown there, so we're back now. Sorry about that. When things happen on this scale, they go really, really bad. So everything's rebooted, everything's going now, and all cleaned up and good to go. So I won't keep you on here long. I know it's Friday. People are probably out trick-or-treating, or I just got a text from Jody a minute ago in Atlanta wanting to know if something was fireworks or sounded like gunshots, and I think it was fireworks. So we are going to talk tonight for a few minutes about conservative versus liberal. I think there's a good story that kind of gives an example of the reality of what that is, and we're going to talk about aristocratic idiots. I see them everywhere. Let's get started. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right. So here we are, and again, real quick, I don't want to... Hold on one second. Rico's over there screaming. What do you want? He waits till I get started, then he starts mouthing off over there. So there was a story today, and I've been saying for a long time about the reality of conservative and liberal, okay, and the reality of politics for that matter. And what they're finding now, and it doesn't surprise me, but I don't think this is I think this is going to be a picture that is not necessarily revealing of what Clinton and the rest of those people were doing in the DNC. But it turns out Fusion GPS was also hired by a conservative group called the Free Beacon, and editor-in-chief Matthew Continetti and Chairman Michael Goldfarb said in a statement that the publication had retained Fusion GPS to provide research on multiple candidates in the 2016 Republican presidential primary. Now, as well as Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton in the DNC. So what exactly is, I'm reading this, that's why I'm looking over here. What exactly is that retained Fusion GPS to provide research on multiple candidates in the 2016 Republican presidential primary? You know what that tells me, folks? It tells me that this is just another way that these big money donors and these two political parties do work, right? The politicians are not stupid. They work exactly like organized crime. I know, I was in the FBI, I dealt with this stuff. They work exactly like organized crime where, like, look at Gotti, for instance, right? Gotti wasn't the guy out there murdering people. He wasn't the guy out there extorting people or doing these different things. He was the guy that gave the commandments down to what needed to be done. He's the guy that ordered things. He's the guy that directed and was the authority figure. Well, you know, they do things like that through underlings that in order to, and the underlings, they make money off of this and they gain stature, and but it keeps the leaders, who are the longest members there, or the bloodline, or whatever they could be in these cases, whether it be a gang or something like this, it keeps them in power and clear of everything. Hold on one second. Rico's trying to get up in here. So what I think in the case of the conservative and the liberal political parties, the DNC and the RNC, is what you're seeing is use of groups like the Free Beacon, the big money donors, Fusion GPS. Those people are, and sometimes it's even the big money donors utilizing the politicians, so that they're kind of unknown, because a lot of these big money donors, you don't know them. You think you know everybody in politics. You don't know these people. These people are very wealthy, very connected, and I can guarantee you you don't know these people by and large. And so it just got me thinking, because the reality is, what's happening with the Clintons, everybody has their own little piece of the pie. The Clintons just happen to be the ones that figured out the most, because by and large they had a president in their corner, and Hillary Clinton, who was continuing to be a very powerful figure in politics. And so what you have here, and what I continue to preach and harp on, is that there is no conservative and liberal. People need to get past these terms. I don't know what it is about this world today, but they love terms. They love to say, you must think this way or you must think that way. I don't want to go into great detail about this today, but I was on the set of a show, and there was a certain person there, that a very aristocratic scientist person, and I didn't agree with anything that the guy had to say. First off, I don't know anything about science, but I do know a ton about politics. I know a lot about leadership, and I know why I voted for President Trump. And I sat there and listened to this guy talk about how, first of all, how smart he is, and talk about the universe and all these different things, coding his propaganda with, when you boil an egg, not the shell. The shell really does protect the egg, right? But you take the shell off, and there's that very thin membrane that goes around the egg itself. That's about the extent of when you look at what people, when they build up how great they are, where they graduated college, how much they know about the universe, or this or that, and then they turn around and lob the big egg, right? All that of how they feel about Donald Trump or politics or communism or this or that. They coat the egg in that thin film, and that's their experience. That's like this guy. He has he from Harvard. He graduated from Harvard, and he's a physicist or something like this, and astrophysicist, and he has all this big talk, and people love him, and they just worship the words that come out of his mouth. Oh, he's so funny and hilarious. And then, but the reality is, he coats his almost said what it is, his bullcrap, political beliefs. He coats it with that stuff. So whereas everybody thinks that he's just giving his opinion about politics, the politics is the actual egg. That's the egg. The rest of the stuff is just the lining on the outside to get you there, to get you in place, so he can then lower the boom about what he feels and what he believes or his ideology is. And it was, quite frankly, I wasn't there to talk politics. I was there to talk about my book. But, I mean, I wasn't going to go as far as to say something out loud when I wasn't the guest on set. But I'm telling you right now, that was the biggest bunch of crap I've ever seen. This guy says that that when he talks to people about President Trump, that the reality is Trump was elected because he was popular. Well, he lost the popular vote, so that kind of ruins his argument right there. But he said that we pick presidents now based on popularity. And listen, I'm not going to lie with that part of it. But he said that in this case, the popular candidate had the least amount of experience, or virtually no experience. And as I've said all along, Trump is not a polished politician. In fact, he was not a politician up until he ran for this office. And I'm not really sure if that makes a person a politician. It puts him in a political arena, but I don't think you could qualify Trump as a politician. A politician is somebody who is, by and large, a liar, an aristocrat, somebody who does not know how to lead, somebody who milks the system in order to further their own progression. I mean, look, President Trump is not getting anything out of this. I'm sure his business will get a bump, his recognition will get a bump, but it's not going to be like he wasn't rich already and he wasn't famous already. It's a kind of an expensive bump, don't you think? I think. And I've been saying all along, love him or hate him, he has shown, and was the only one on the stage on the Republican Party and the only one on the stage in the Democratic Party, with the exception of Jim Webb, who got out very quickly, that had any real-world operational experience. Somebody who spent years crafting a skill. He has talents of the gift of gab and of basically understanding how things work and reinventing himself. That's a real talent, and he cultivated that talent. But he also cultivated some skills of building, of branding, and he failed and came back. I've explained this so many times that. So let me see what this person says here. Trump is an alpha capitalist in a capitalist society. No surprise in him being elected. I don't know what you mean by that, but so he's lost money. He's lost millions of dollars. 5 of his companies have gone bankrupt, but that's out of hundreds of companies. I challenge anyone that has heartburn with that to open a company and see if you can make it succeed. Opening one company, I know, I've done it, is very difficult. It's in this day and age, especially under the last administration, it's damn right impossible, almost. And for him to come back and reinvent himself over and over again, build successful buildings. You don't see Trump buildings falling down all over the place. You don't see Trump being sued constantly because his buildings are faulty, and I'm not just talking about the ones that are branded, but I'm talking about the ones when he was actually building these things. You know, he built real stuff. The ice rink here in New York City, I know it's an ice rink, but it's a perfect example of the way he does stuff. He went out, it was over budget and delayed, and he said, you know, I want to take on this project. He took it on, and he got it done quicker and cheaper by going to get subject matter experts to do it. And I can't help but think that the biggest problem he's had in his presidency so far has been the media, has been the Republican establishment, and the Democratic establishment and their lies. So he himself, and his inability, the fourth thing is his inability to decipher who's a subject matter expert in Washington, D.C. And the problem he has there is he is trusted too much on people that are in the know there, and they just recycle each other. And that is a problem because, I don't like unions, but here in New York City, you can't do cement work with plumbers, right? Cement union, the concrete union, whatever they are, they're the ones who are going to do that. Same thing, vice versa. You're not going to take the whatever union might be, electricians union, and have them do plumbing. That's not the way it works, right? You get subject matter experts to do those things, and there has to be certain certifications that are handed out by the city. Well, in Washington, D.C., there's none of these certifications to be a politician. You basically have to be accepted by one of these two private companies called the Democratic or Republican Party. And so what you get is you get a bunch of people that are ass-kissing liars that are hell-bent on furthering their own political careers in order to, and they come together and work as groups. Not for the betterment of the country, but to better and better line their pockets with money and our taxpayers' money. That's what happens. So getting back to this whole thing, listening to this guy talk, I couldn't help but think, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, this is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. The liberal and conservative, we've been sold a bill of goods. It's not true. It really, honestly, I'm not going to try to solve a problem based on the fact that that I am pro-life, the fact that I'm a Christian, the fact that I'm a veteran. I'm not going to look at a light bulb and say, how would God screw this light bulb in? I'm going to look at the light bulb. I'm going to see that it's threaded the same way that's threaded, and it fits the wattage, and I'm going to screw that thing in and turn the light on, right? That's because that's what's effective. You use this light bulb to put in that socket and turn the light socket on, and you got light. So we've been told if you are a Christian, and if you are pro-life, and if you, if you're a veteran or you're a patriot, that you must fall in line with the Republican Party. But quite frankly, the Republican Party is full of backstabbing, lying weirdos like Ben Sassy, or Sass, or however you say his name, who I showed the other day is a complete fraud. And if you feel the other way, if you feel like, okay, look, I agree with social programs of us to a certain extent. I believe there should be welfare. I believe there should be public housing. I believe that there should be different types of subsistence. But I also believe that you should have limits on that you should be drug tested if you're going to go on it. And if you can't find a job or get off your feet for in a certain period of time, hey, you're going to work. It's just you're going to go to work for the government, and you're going to go to work for the taxpayers because that's who's funding it for you. So you see there, I'm thinking effectively. And, yeah, there's a social program. Okay, I'm cool with that. But it doesn't mean it's socialism. I hate hearing that when people say, oh, you do believe more in socialism than you think because you believe that welfare is okay. Or what about the roads? Those are federally funded. And listen, these are programs that when I say social programs, they're to benefit society, and they may be ran by the government. But socialism and communism and globalism and fascism, really, they're all the same. They are where the government, and in particular certain leaders and power players, become stronger and stronger like a magnet until they control all things. So believing in social programs, if you term yourself liberal and you believe in social programs, or if you term yourself liberal and you believe that I don't know. It's when you take liberal and conservative out of the pocket and you get rid of those words, and we were to sit down, and if somebody who is liberal that's watching this right now, I consider myself by this definition, I guess, conservative. But if we were to get rid of these terms, and we're to sit down and we put 12 problems up on the board and that need to be solved, I can guarantee you we would come to a conclusion on at least 5 different ways to solve it. And then what we'd have to do is say, okay, let's weed that down to 3, not through compromise. Let's not compromise on this. Let's air our grievances and our differences and see what's more effective, right? Like, for instance, North Korea. People say they're liberal. They want more dialogue. They want more sanctions. They want more. I'm trying to think of the word that I'm trying to use. I'm trying to find that word. It's right on the tip of my tongue. They want to use diplomatic ways, right? They want to go out there and have dialogue and have diplomatic ways. And in certain cases that may work, but in certain cases it won't work. And what happened, 50 years ago, we didn't finish that war. We didn't fight it. A war to be won. We fought a war to reach a political end, and that's why we still have a problem with North Korea. Now, if we take liberal and conservative out of this, and we said, okay, we got a major problem here in North Korea. Will sanctions work? Sanctions will put a huge hurting on this person, but obviously they don't work because it hasn't worked in 50 years, okay? So it weakens, but it only weakens the country. It doesn't weaken that centralized group of people who live however they want to live, because they're the dictators, fascist leaders, communist government or socialist globalist government, right? It's not going to affect them that much, really. So sanctions play a part in it. Okay, so we sit down and we say, okay, North Korea, sanctions, I guess they play a part in this, right? Total warfare would eliminate this if it was done correctly. Yes, that's true, but there'd be a lot of death. Okay, potentially a lot of death. But ultimately, if we don't do something, then the risk grows higher and higher that individual will grow stronger and stronger and then have the ability to wage war. And we are back again where we were 50 years ago, where our ally, Korea, is now under the midst of this crazy dictator who now has nuclear weapons. So we sit down, and the quote unquote liberal is saying we need more sanctions, we need more dialogue, we need more diplomacy, and the more conservative people are saying, okay, sanctions will work, but we also need to go ahead and end this and go out there and do full force, or at least some kind of force. And so my way of thinking is, first and foremost, you're both right, okay? You're both right. But at the same time, everybody that's a leader, it seems like, in this day and age, can't help but blab everything that we're going to do, even including sanctions. Okay, so everybody's wrong in that case. So the first thing we need to do, if we think effectively together, is shut the F up. All right? Stop telling everybody what we're going to do. If you're going to do sanctions, just do them. Why does it have to be advertised? I'll tell you why, because politicians want to advertise, right? So I think most liberals would agree with that. Stop telling everybody. So we stop. And then we say, okay, sanctions. We got the sanctions going. We're not telling anybody. We're doing it secret sanctions. Now, military, let's talk about military involvement. Some people that are liberal, they just say, no liberal involvement. Well, that's not realistic. It's not realistic. I don't care how war-weary you are, how much of a peace advocate you are. No war is not realistic, especially with people in like North Korea, where they're 30 miles away from the most populated city in the world. 27 million people right there, 30 miles away from the border. Okay? So no war is not realistic. So you come up with a realistic military plan. Is the liberal good at that? Maybe they are, maybe they're not, probably not. So the conservatives will plan that military plan, or we'll let the DOD do it like they're supposed to. And we have this military plan. Now, do we then go and advertise what we're going to do? Do we go then and share it with all our allies who have spies, and then share that with Russia and it gets back to North Korea? I don't think we should do that either. Would you agree with that, liberal? I agree with that as well. Okay, there's no compromise here. There's no compromise. We're looking at what's effective. And so you eliminate this idea that you have to think this way and you have to think that way. Liberal, the quote-unquote liberal says sanctions. I'm a conservative. I say, yeah, sanctions. Let's do sanctions. But shh, keep it quiet. I say I'm conservative. I say we need to have a military plan, but I'm also a realist, right? So I say we need to have a military plan where we freaking crush this guy once and for all, and we do away with this North Korea problem so the world never has to worry about this again. And then we merge North and South Korea, and we allow freedom to spring, right? Which is totally different than what would happen in Iraq or Afghanistan or down in Central South America where the drug lords were. This is a case of getting rid of a dictator and allowing South Korea to take back over and the Koreas to be the Koreas again. So you may have some pushback from somebody who's liberal saying, no, I don't agree with the fighting no matter what. Well, that's unrealistic, right? So I don't look at that person as liberal. I look at that person as unrealistic and stupid because they live in a fantasy world. Now, if you live in a fantasy world and you think that's liberalism and you think that I'm liberal, so therefore there's no war, well, you know what you are? You're an idiot that lives in a fake fantasy world. So they can utilize that, and most people that live in a realistic world that have, ideas of let's slow to anger so we need more dialogue, or other people who say, screw that, this world is dangerous, we need to go in there and go after it. That is really not conservative and liberal. You're being lied to. That is different people looking at different solutions and but wanting the same outcome. So the other people live in a fantasy world. But by and large, everybody on one side or the other is being indoctrinated by these belief systems that you have to be this way. You can only believe this way. The abortion issue is another issue that the liberals say freedom of choice, and the conservatives say nope, right to life, which is interesting because the liberals are always the ones that are saying that you can't have the death penalty. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense to me. You'll kill a fetus which could live on its own. Some of these people don't care as long as they think that they literally believe that the baby is not even fully developed. I've heard people talk until it's like, I don't know, older, like outside of the womb and like grown. But I'm sure most people don't feel like that. But if we look at the two arguments of the abortion issue, right, it really basically comes down to this. All right, religion is thrown in there, emotion is thrown in there. People that are young and they want to screw around, but they don't want to take responsibility for it. You got all these different things that people heap in there, and so they have their own self-centered ideas, and never in all this. Not with everybody, but I would say on the liberal side, the fetus is the last thing on their mind. It's the last thing. They don't really even consider it. It's easy to not consider things when you're in that type of a circumstance. So I've never gotten this many emails ever on a Friday night. This is weird. So anyway, so if we were realistic about this, and if we stopped with this liberal and conservative nonsense, and we said, okay, for the betterment of the country and for the protection of our constitutional rights, let's start from square one. What does the Constitution say? All right. We got different people that worship different religions in this country. And although I believe Christianity is the one way and is the answer, and I think if you looked at all these religions, you would see the reality of this. But this is not, in my mind, this is not a religious decision. This is a decision based on the country that we live in, the Constitution that was written at the beginning of the establishment of this country, and the freedoms that it protects. And it protects your life. The Constitution protects life. And if you're born, the government can't come in, or your mom can't come in and cut you open to check your blood. They can't force you to do certain things inside or with your body. That's against the law. They can't do it because you are protected by law. So, and we could get into this legal discussion and all these different things, but the point is that if we sat down and we thought about what is best for our citizenry, what is best for this country, and what is protected by the Constitution, what you would see is there really is no abortion argument. That argument has been twisted and turned about in the court of law that is led by judges, as we've described all week, that are full of aristocratic, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. It's full of aristocratic idiots, not very wise, centered people who are who automatically have a leaning, or they say are neutral. That's not the case. Big, powerful judges don't get big and powerful by being neutral. They get powerful and rank by leaning to the left or to the right, which is a political stance, not a constitutional stance, not a stance as a neutral and proper judge out to protect and ensure the law. That's not the way you become a powerful judge. So if we were all to sit down and say, what is best for our citizenry, what is best for this country, and what is best for life, which is protected by the Constitution, there's no choice in the matter. Abortion should be illegal. It should just be illegal. And I'm not even making a religious statement there. If we don't stand together and do what is best and most effective in every single circumstance, whether you like it or not, whether it affects you gravely or not, if it ensures life, if it follows the Constitution, and if the Constitution insists that it must be this way, then it should not be messed with. And we should come to terms with this. And if we were thinking effective and thinking as a whole, what is best for us, not best for them. See, that's where the communists and the globalists and these divisive people say, you have to have pro-choice because it's not right for women. All right? So they're saying based on what's not right for women, what's not fair for women, then that must be imposed on the rest of the population. And that's not the way you run an effective society. So this whole conservative and liberal nonsense is utilized to further these ridiculous arguments and further divide the people. If abortion was illegal, would some people die because of pregnancies? Yeah, probably. Would people go out and try to get illegal abortions? Yeah, probably. They probably would, and they may die from that, or it may be some dirty backroom thing. Yeah, of course, it's probably going to happen, especially in this day and age where people have little morals or ethics. However, should that be the reason? And would some people be forced to carry a baby to term when they didn't want that child? Yes, it would happen. It would happen. But I can guarantee you, if we set aside liberal and conservative and we did what was effective and we thought realistically, we would say, the churches would say, the people together collectively would say, don't touch that human that is being born into this country. They are a protected human citizen. And if they're protected and they're born into this country, then they are an American citizen. And they're protected by the laws, they're protected by the Constitution. And we must do what's right and what's best and what's just for everyone. And therefore, the churches and the people and the women and the men and whatever would get together and say, and we must take care of that child after it's born. And we must take care of the mother, because we don't give them an alternative because of the Constitution. We must do what's right, and we must ensure that this woman has what she needs to take this child to term, to bear this child. And then if she does not want this child, then the state or the church or the families must have a way to raise this child. There's been plenty of children that have been raised successfully in circumstances much worse than this. Now, the other thing is, if you think effectively, go out there and somebody invent some better birth control, right? You see, that's thinking effectively, and that's not thinking conservative or liberal. I don't know what the Catholic Church. I'm not Catholic. I don't know what their problem is with birth control. Let's not allow somebody to keep a baby from being born out of wedlock. Let's say, let's in this day and age where sex and breast and everything else is flung all over the television and TV, and it desires are at higher peaks than they've ever been in human history. But let's not give them a way to keep from getting each other pregnant. That's just ridiculous and it's stupid. But listen, you're talking about an organization that's led by a globalist and a centralized group of people telling everybody else in that religion how they should think. I don't agree with that. If they took away the individual's right to have a relationship with God and impose these laws on them, and that's why you get this stuff all screwed up. So I know I'm making a lot of people unhappy tonight, but here's where I'm getting at this. That's a fine example there. You're Catholic, so you must vote this way. You're Jewish so in America, and you must vote this way. That's nonsense. That's utter nonsense. You're in a country where you're free thinkers, but you're also in a country where you live under a constitution. You should embrace it, protect it, and do what's effective in order to solve problems. We don't do that because you've been sold this bill of goods that says you're either conservative or liberal. You're gay or straight. You're black or white. You're woman or man. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Yes, you're a woman or man. You may have sexual tendencies that are gay or straight. You may be have dark skin or white skin. You may be follow this religion versus that religion. But there's nothing in those things, those behavioral characteristics or belief systems, that should get in the way of the Constitution standing and protecting and standing for the things that it stands for, protecting the rights that it was created for, and nothing should get in that way. But we're told that you got to think this way or you got to think that way, and it's a lie. It's a lie. The same thing with people that live in the inner city or people that grow up poor, and they're told that, you know, it's difficult to get out. And if your grade point average is too low, you're not going to go to college. That's a lie. I'm living proof of that. I had a terrible grade point average in high school. I didn't know how to study. I wasn't properly taught how to study. I didn't even know that was the problem. I wasn't sure if I had a learning disability or what. The big problem I had was I tried to learn everything. And this is what I've never understood about schooling. You know, again, conservatives and liberals argue over how schooling should be done constantly, but they never take into consideration, are they literally teaching these people? Are they just wanting them to pass the test and make good grades? Because that's not learning. I'm here to tell you, once old Butler, my buddy, taught me how to learn, or excuse me, how to learn how to go through and study, not learn how to study. Butler taught me how to study for tests. I never failed another test in my life since that day. Ever. Not one test. Well, they would argue with that in buds, but they failed me on that test for a reason. That's a whole other story. In other words, I didn't fail that test. I was failed on that test. So the point is, whether it be school or the abortion issue or changing a light bulb or whatever, the school thing is a good example. You know, because of politics and because you're told you need to choose this way or that way for the new curriculum, nobody's concentrating on the reality that our children are not getting smarter. They're getting prepared for college. They're being told this is how you'll pass a test and this is how you study. And so they go make better grades, but they're dumber than they were 50 years ago. I mean, why did they take in cursive writing out of school? Will you use it again? Probably not. But it was a skill set that you were learning. You were learning this skill set, and it was broadening you. And just the same way I feel about police and police departments. They're not training the total officer. They're training patrolmen and SWAT. And SWAT's never there when something happens. And when they do show up, the majority of those people have a ton of gear and no training whatsoever, very little training, and it's a total crap show. And you end up having 50 people dead here or 50 people dead there. And the reality is, if the total officer was trained, let's take Orlando, for instance. If the officers were trained as the total officer, given the right gear, given the right equipment, given the right training and the right mindset, and hired the right people, you could hire, I'd say, a quarter less of officers, pretty much do away with SWAT in most towns, and you would be able to, you would have a mighty fighting force. A force that, on a daily basis, doing their patrol work, not a lot would change. Maybe their ability to communicate would be better because you would have more time to spend on communication skills. But overall, if an active shooter came in, like happened in Orlando, you would have the total officers arriving. The first, 4 to 6 or 8 officers that arrive stack up and go into the area where the shooting is happening, while the other officers develop a blocking force and take up overwatch on buildings surrounding the area so that they can make sure that it's not multiple shooters, so they can monitor what's going on, get the injured in and out. You don't see that. You don't see that stuff. Why? Because they're not thinking effectively. They're being told what to do by politicians. They're not being told this is the way it should be done by real operators. And what in turn happens is it comes down to whoever's elected as mayor or a sheriff, whoever is the most politically minded that rose to the chief or the commissioner level. And what do you end up having? Terrible tactics, people dying, and it all comes down to the same thing. Nobody's thinking effectively. They're thinking politically. So it's as I'm watching this arrogant, pompous ass talk on that show today, and look, I'm maybe a little bit raw on this show, but this is my show. I can say and do whatever I want. If I'm on set with somebody else and I feel this about them, I'm not going to walk up and say that. Although I'd love to have shaken his hand and said, "You're the biggest bullshit artist I've ever seen. It's unbelievable how you mix in your radical opinions with talking about, the all these different things about planets and this and science and, iron and all that. I mean, and then he'll throw in something about how bad Trump is. This is an expert, I'm sorry I used the word a minute ago, but I'm going to say it again. Bullshit artist is what this guy was. And he is it's hard not to use that word. I don't know why, but this is a guy who can BS better than any of them. And the government's full of them, and people believe what these people have to say. I was astounded at how many people were fawning over this guy. When, he's got a lot of schooling, and he's very aristocratic in the way he talks. But everything that I heard him say, other than the scientific stuff, right? And that, remember, that's the coating around the egg. The scientific stuff was great, but it didn't draw me in to believe what he said, because I think I'm an effective thinker. Everything he said, other than the scientific stuff, and listen, that could be lies. I don't know, because I'm not a scientist. But everything that he said, except for the scientific stuff, I know something about, and it was complete bullcrap. Not well thought out. Totally opinionated, with little to no effective reasoning that he was given. It was just, I feel this way, and if you don't feel this way, man, you're weird. And I see these people everywhere. It's like the Sixth Sense. They're everywhere. And more than that, I see the herds of people following them. It's unbelievable, the amount of people. You may be one of them, and I hope this show tonight helps you correct that, but it's unbelievable how many people will follow a person like that. Myself, I'm not going to go into great detail about my career. Most people that watch this show know about my career. I wish it would have been longer in the SEAL teams. I wish I would have, really, if I had it all do over again, I probably just would have stayed there, went and enlisted and stayed there, but I've had varied careers around doing different things in government service and in private sector. I have a very, very full resume of service and experience, and I don't care if it was me or even like Dan O'Shea, this weirdo that has a real hatred for me, but he was a former SEAL, and a pompous, arrogant ass. However, he's a veteran and he's got real experience. I would rather see that guy, or if he was in my place and he was in there, he wouldn't have gotten any attention today. And I just find that odd that this individual who has all this schooling but has this arrogant, aristocratic attitude that is full of opinion and lies, that people will fawn over that person. It's not a jealousy thing for me. I'm actually in amazement. The whole crew of these people were just like, every word he said, it was like amazing. Yeah, the scientific stuff is pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie to you. I love space and all that stuff, but as soon as you start opening your mouth about this nonsense about politics and you're mixing in there, I'm seeing the reality of what you're doing. And it's sad that you have veterans or that you have people that have served in a room with this type of a person and they get little to no attention. It's a sad thing. I'm not blaming the people that run this show. I'm blaming society in the way that we're so eager to follow people that paint a pretty picture, or this arrogant, aristocratic thing that they had. It's like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I just will say this. Everybody I met there today was extremely nice, and I'd go back there in a heartbeat. But I'm just using this as an example, and I'll do this. I don't care where I was, I would use it as an example because I think it's an example we could all learn from. But I sat back and was amazed. I was sitting there on the edge of the set listening to this guy talk, and I was like, there wasn't an emotion in my face. Just in my brain, I kept thinking, this guy is a master bullshit artist. It is unbelievable. It's just oozing out of his mouth like lava. Teased with sense of humor. Teased with knowledge of the universe. But full-on BS. So when I look at groups like Fusion GPS, when I look at the Free Beacon, when I look at the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, all I'm seeing here, folks, is a bunch of labels. They use conservative and liberal. They use millennial. They use baby boomers. They use gay, straight, black, white, brown. They use male or female, gay or not. They got so many different labels now. It's freaking crazy. And I can't help but think that these labels mean nothing when it comes to effective thinking. It really comes down to nothing. It does nothing to solve problems. So, does everybody have something to drink? Because I need a drink tonight. Big time. So, and happy to say, folks, the book is at the printers now, finally. So the book is, it's already being ginned up. The paper's getting inked and all this stuff, and they're going to start printing these books. They'll be out December 12th, 12/12, okay? The audio book, I am slowly working my way through that. And, man, it is a process. If you ever write a book, folks, that's something you can't BS your way through that. I mean, it's even if it's not a good book, it is a freaking, it's like, it reminds me of the movie The Hobbit. Not the Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit, right? The very first the very first Hobbit movie that came out. All they did was walk. They walked from one battle to the next, and that's what it seems like. When you're writing a book, you're just literally walking from one thing to another. I got to struggle trying to be creative. Once I start figuring out how to be creative, you got to struggle to maintain that. You got to go work, you got to do these things, and you got to get back in that mindset. Once you get the thing written, then the editing starts, and don't even get me started on that. You know, this incredible editor, John Ford, that they had at Post Hill, look over my book. He looked at it, and he wrote me back, and he's like, you have a book here, but I think you need to add something here, move this over here. I mean, he's like a puzzle master, this guy. And so I did that, and then I sat back, and I was like, wow, this is the book I've been trying to write for like 15 years. This is it right here. Then it went to the first round of edits. And I said, yeah, that was the shell of the book I've been trying to write for 15 years. Okay, now this is the book. And then went to edit again. And then came back. And then we went through it. And it's like staring at a light bulb that's turned on for an hour and then turning it off and trying to find your way through a room that you've never been in before. You're just, or a room that you've been through 100 times. You're going to end up stumping your toe, cracking your shin on something. When you stare at this page for so long, you will look right at issues and go right around them and misspelled words, or it's difficult, folks. But it was a labor of love. It's now at the printer. If when you read this book, and I hope everybody does, and you see a grammatical error, or you see something, don't hesitate to write me and tell me I found this, because we'll change it the next time we do the print. And Stephen King does that in his books. It's virtually impossible not to catch every single one, especially when somebody who's not a grammar major or anything like that. I major in political science psychology. I can't say I'm not a writer because I wrote a book, but so yeah, if you haven't got your drink yet, get your drink. And Gosh, I'm a popular guy now on emails. Make sure that you go to the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. That fund, although it says on there $40,000, that's what we collected over the past year, $40,000. But that's what has gone towards the equipment, the rent for the studio, the truck when we went on the road, the trips. I slept in my truck during those trips I built a bed in the back so I wouldn't have to spend donors' money on hotel rooms, and stayed at a couple people's places and stuff. So if you want to keep this going, let's keep it going, and donate to the GoFundMe page. There it is again, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. $50 or more, we're going to get an autographed book to you when they come out. That means you're going to have to give your address, and we're going to have to send that book to you somehow, some way. And that's about it. If you have not ordered the book, tonight would be a good night to order it. It's a good pre-Halloween book to have. It's you want to get it ordered now so that when the first shipment comes out, December 12th, if you wait until then, you may not get a book until the next printing, because if these things really, if it takes off, like in the next, within this month of November, which if it takes off any further than like it has been, we're going to print a certain amount of books, and there's a chance that if it explodes even more, you're not going to get your book until the next printing. So make sure that you're ordering this book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. You can get it at Amazon, and just go there and click and just type in Sheep No More, Jonathan Gilliam. You'll see the picture. It's right here. Oops, right there. You'll see that picture on Amazon. Okay, that's about it. Anybody else got anything? Let's see here. Let's see, where can we fund Israel? I don't understand that question there. Eat MREs. All right, let's see. Anybody needs to be blocked here? Let's see here. Let's see here. Tell me who needs to be blocked. It's Friday night. I feel like blocking some people. I Facebook is such good behaved, well people. There's my mom. Hello, Joy Hawk. The name of the book is Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It's actually right here in case you don't know that. It's right there. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. I don't know why I do that. I could just do this. Hold on. Let me make this small again. I could just do this. Boom. Sheep No More. Get it. What else we got here? Block Motorhead 1. Okay, where's Motorhead 1 at? Come here, Motorhead. I don't see Motorhead 1. I don't see him. Wait, no. He's not popping up on my thing here. Hold on. Hey, it's Friday night, so I'm taking the time to do this. Let's see here. Come on, Motorhead. Show me where you're at so I can block you. I'm going to block you anyway when we get off here. All right, let me just do it this way. I'll just go on my phone. Periscope. He's in custody. All right. Let's see here. Search. Motor. Where's it at? Motorhead 1. Motorhead 1. I don't see Motorhead 1. That's interesting. Okay. I see Motorhead, my Motorhead. So Jesse Waters stated that Mueller has reached an indictment, reported by CNN. Yeah. Mueller's a criminal, is what Mueller is. That's what Mueller is. All right. Let's go to the Truth Zone. Get your drink. Let's do this. It's Friday. I shouldn't be keeping you all here. Again, order the book. Donate to the GoFundMe page. You can combine it and donate to the GoFundMe page, and order a book. Here's the other thing: the more of these books that you order, you can donate those books to battered women's shelters. You can donate them to your church. If your church has a big group of people that goes downrange to different countries and they have missionaries, you should read this. The Mormon Church should buy like 10,000 of these books for their members that go on these missionaries. I just thought about that. Maybe I'll hit up the Mormon Church. They don't give away their money easy. All right, Scientologists. I don't need any Scientologists buying it. Although you're rich. All right, let's go to the Truth Zone, shall we? Before I keep rambling. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More: The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. Why won't Trump fire Mueller? I don't know. He could. He should. All right. Sheep No More, get it. Let's raise a toast to this country. And let's raise a toast to the non-elite, the non-aristocratic. Let's raise a toast to the total citizen, somebody who not only wants to strive to be the best, but goes through the real struggle of being the best that they can be. I don't know why I'm staring at this, the best that they can be. People that are not afraid to step outside of what they were born into so they can become their potential. That is what freedom allows you to do. Stop being inundated by these terms of conservative and liberal, gay, straight, woman, man, black, white. If you seriously think that the color of your skin makes you more related to another individual, or makes you gives you a claim to, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but like birds of a feather flock together. How about moralistic people flock together? How about righteous, upstanding, moralistic, ethical human beings? Forget about color. It doesn't matter. Forget about sexuality. You don't need to be broadcasting that nonsense anyway. Nobody cares. Do you think people would even know that you're gay? Maybe you're a feminine male. Maybe you're kind of a tough woman. I don't know. Maybe they would. But your sexuality is what happens in your home when you have no clothes on. Why is that? Why is that something that you're told you have to broadcast? I don't get it. If you're a female, I know you're a female. You don't have to take your bra off and scream at the moon. We know you're a woman. Go be a powerful woman. You don't have to stand for something to be powerful. Be the best you can be. Go out and find out what you should be and start striving for that. That's all. You don't have to be nasty like old Ashley Judd says before she goes and tells Weinstein she'll sleep with him in order if she gets the Academy Award in one of his movies. That's her grand plan for getting out of a room with him. I don't get it, folks. We need to start thinking what's best for us. Stop listening to these political elites. Stop listening to these aristocratic idiots. Stop listening to people who are performers and they line their lives with great performances. Start seeking truth. I don't care if you're Christian or not. Crack open the Bible. Read it from front to back. See if you get knowledge from that. There's no celebrity in there. Even Christ, Jesus, the Son of God, that came down to the earth to save and pay the ultimate sacrifice, he didn't come down as a celebrity. In fact, he was hated and put to death by the very community in which he was born. That's the guy I'm following. Let's toast to him. Jesus, Lord, this to you, my friend. Thank you for giving us another Friday. Let's do it. I'm Jonathan Gillum. I'm sure Rico's over there somewhere. Sleeping. Wherever you see this face, the truth has arrived. This is The Experts. I'll see you Monday. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.